Okay, welcome back to the Windsurfer channel. As you'll be able to see, besides myself and Tris, we have got the Gen 2 North X-Over in a 5.4. Pretty the word on the street.
It's a pretty lucky thing. So yeah, so this is the Gen 2 version. They've basically completely redesigned the sail according to the literature, taking different geometries, different profiles, and really working on the profiles of the sail and what they can actually do with this seamless construction technology, the 3DI. They've also used some more sort of layup with the fibers to try and reinforce the sort of the critical areas. So again, the way they lay up the 3DI means that they can determine how much material goes into specific parts, and obviously with a sail like this and the environment it's going to be used in, it's fairly critical to reinforce specific areas. So they've kind of worked on that. What do you think? Well, it looks pretty, eh?
It looks cool. I think initial thoughts, you know, when it got sent to us, we rigged it up, which is something we should definitely sort of touch on. Is at sort of first glance, it never looks perfect. Like you rig up a normal sort of monofilm sail and you kind of see the panels are nice and tight.
Yeah.
Whereas this one has actually got quite a little bit of sort of wrinkles in areas which you would almost expect that can be sort of almost fixed by a bit more batten tension on. However, the way the sort of the 3DI material works, and you know the laminate is one piece of material that runs all the way down. The sail really comes into its own when you put a bit of wind in the sail. What they've done with the X-Over, which was kind of like an instant sort of thought that looked almost like there's a broken batten tip in there, which was definitely noted at the beach one day. Actually, what they've done on the third panel, fourth batten down, is they've shortened the tip ever so slightly, so it's probably about 20, 30 mil, if that. However, once, we'll show you a shot in a minute of it actually rigged up with a boom on, once the pressure is actually pushed into the sail, what it does quite nicely is creates a really nice sort of deep profile, sort of, you know, just above your head, where the power wants to be, that's going to be quite pulling you off your toes. And what also happens is all these wrinkles that you're seeing down the sail right now actually sort of spread out and the sail fills out. So it's almost like what you see on the beach isn't necessarily what you're going to get on the water.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? Actually using the technology to the best of its abilities to kind of determine where the body and the shape of the sail really is. Peter Bilge just released a video, didn't he, just whilst we were actually testing this, to kind of give us that explanation of, you know, between the battens previously and using conventional materials, you kind of, again, you're using it between sort of the ribs of the sail. You're restricted to the limitations of the material you're using, whereas this, because of the layups they're doing and the 3DI technology, they can actually determine exactly where that depth sits and where the profile sits. So, you know, it's using that to the best of its ability. Interestingly, one thing, they say it's seamless. Obviously, you still have a monofilm window. You still have a seam in there. You know, the idea is monofilm, even though it's got a bad name for some people, they use bi-ply or cross-ply or whatever, you know, there's nothing that's really better in actually providing visibility. And, you know, so putting it in there, that's fairly thick. And I suppose that could be partly the reason why, as a sail, you know, 5.4, I think it was 3.51 kilos?
3.15.
3.15. So 3.15 kilos, which actually isn't incredibly light when it comes down to comparison on other sort of 5.5 sort that we've tested. But I suppose the proof is in the pudding and actually how the sail feels when you're out on the water.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a 5 batten sail. You know, there's 6 smaller sizes, which is a 3.7 up to the 5.8. There's really marketed as sort of a power wave sail. And the 2 larger sizes are more designed at blasting and sort of free riding. Obviously for a big person and whatnot, or lighter winds in the waves, you could probably get away with it. But also when you look at the sail at the first glance and you're rigging it up, you'll notice that actually the geometry of it's quite low aspect. So it's a little bit of a wider boom.
179 boom. So for a 5.4, that's quite a long boom, isn't it? So it's quite low aspect.
Exactly. I know like some of the 5.7s we've tested recently, actually they've got a shorter boom than that. So definitely something that sort of sparked our interest a little bit around that. But that was just whilst rigging up. Obviously North have developed their own, what they call is the easy rig setup. So they've got it on the clue and they've got it on the downhaul pulleys as well. So it's pretty much just a loop and go system.
Basically to try and make tuning and trimming as easy as possible.
And it is super easy. If you've got the North mast extension as well, it does make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But obviously North, you know, they coming from effectively a yacht racing background, they've come to the market without, you know, all these stock parts that lots of brands do have. So they did, you know, they redesigned everything from the ground up.
I suppose that's a lot to be said for the iRocket, the batten ends as well.
Rocket batten tips. So very similar to someone else on the market.
It's not the iRocket, it's the Rocket.
The Rocket. So something similar to what is sort of already on the market. However, you know, it's a really well-proven design that works.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it does its job really well. And equally, you know, it's just very simple to use, and it eliminates that use for a batten tool.
Yeah.
Which is good. So really, that's kind of where we're at with the crossover. There's lots of good technology in there. It's really important, you know, for us to go and have some good sessions on this. A little bit smaller than the other cells we got on test. So majority of them are 5.7s. So where it's a 5.4 but a lower aspect design, it'd be really interesting to see where the low end sits in and the top end.
And we've rigged it here on a 4 metre. This is their ultimate mast, isn't it? So this is their top of the range mast that we've got here.
Which is nice. And again, you know, it's another mast from theirs. They've had to design from the ground up.
Yeah.
Looks nice in the hands, feels relatively light. So again, we need to get it on the water and see how it feels all together, along with their North boom as well, which, you know, the whole setup is super easy. You can rig within a few minutes and there's not too much of a need to faff around with the ropes. We didn't really fiddle around too much with the batten tension straight out of the bag. I think we put a couple of turns on the third batten and on the fourth batten and the fifth batten. But again, something we can play around with on the water. There's already quite a lot of nice shape there. So it's just a case of getting her on the water and seeing what she can do. Great.
Where did I draw the line? Wires are crossed in the light. I'm in my head, get my feet on the ground. I believe in myself, get my feet on the ground. I'm in my head, get my feet on the ground. I believe in myself, get my feet on the ground.
Okay, we're back. We've had a good couple of weeks testing with the North X-Cyber Gen 2, the 5.4. I mean, first impressions were pretty impressive. I mean, there's plenty of places you could start this and what it was actually capable of. I think the biggest thing was it's stated as a 5.4, has the power of a 5.4, but actually feels a hell of a lot smaller in the hands.
I'd agree with that. I think the bottom end power of it is quite an interesting thing. So it sits very neutrally. It sits like, so the batten's push forward and it sits like it's very balanced and easy. As the power kind of comes on, it doesn't give you that obvious grunt. You know, it's not like other brands where it's sort of almost trying to pull you to your toes. There's a subtleness to its power delivery, and I think it's a little bit more progressive than some people might expect. There's definitely, you know, it's definitely a 5.4. It definitely feels like there's enough feedback to warrant the size it has noted, but it's definitely like a little bit more user friendly than a power wave sail, for example. Yeah,
for sure. And I think a lot of that is probably down to the shaping of the sail. Actually, once you're up and going and, you know, you lean back into the harness, the sail really does fill up. And it's definitely got a slightly different pumping technique to what you're used to in a monofilm sail, where it's very direct. It almost sort of, the belly of the sail fills out, the wind goes in, and it's very efficient at just sort of, you know, holding the power that's needed and actually sort of exhausting the rest of the power when needed, so it's a bit more that sort of progressive start, definitely, like you say. I mean, I can't really get my head around how it feels so much smaller on the water, and like, you know, we tested it, the flattish water in the harbour.
Yep.
Then we actually had a session down at our local beach break with some quite nice waves, and for a 5.4, normally that's kind of the top end sort of wave tailing. Everything starts to feel a bit big and bulky, but actually, like, it was easy enough to throw around. It never felt like it was almost too much, but it had that playful feel to it, which was good. And it was just quite a nice, stable and gentle sail to sort of sit on.
I would say it's got a massive natural range in that, like, you rig it, you get on it, you go. There's the power there, the delivery, and the progression. But actually, as particularly in, you know, the gusty easterlies we had, you never feel that the stability of the sail is in question.
Yeah.
So it will depower very well in transition and when you're trying to sort of, you know, play around in the waves.
Yeah.
But in the gust, when you're kind of, you know, trying to power your way out through the back, and when you get out the back and beyond the white water, and you've got like you know, you're exposed to the full effect of the wind, you never feel that like you're going to get overpowered by it. So, you know, that's what I mean by its natural range is insane, and that you like rig it, go, and then you kind of feel that it was always backing you. Like it's got a really good manner.
And I found also when we were rigging it up on the beach that actually, so we didn't need to put that much downhaul on the sail. So rather than sort of a normal sail where you see the leech starting to fall away a bit more,
it's actually a fairly tight mid leech, isn't it?
It's fairly tight, but yeah, it still is able to perform.
It twists still okay.
how you'd want it to, and you can just feel that efficiency. I think having that one piece of material running throughout. Yeah. There's no sort of pull bits. You know, whether the centre panel is been stitched slightly wrong. It is just a very clean. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably a very good analogy. It's a clean power.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it doesn't feel like it's moving at all. Like once the power's on, it's staying in that position, and you can you can vouch for it. You can almost get like a pin and just go bang, it's right there.
Yeah, exactly. And it was nice, and like, you know, I really was confused about this batten tip, as we would have mentioned earlier, but you know, once a sail is filled up with wind, actually the luff sleeve itself isn't super tight, so there's quite a bit of movement there, but once that then fills in, you know, the power's right where it needs to be. It feels very neutral in the hand, so actually you're sailing out back and you're not being overpowered like backhand power wise, and equally once you get onto the wave, you know, you can manipulate it like a normal sort of 4-batten wave sail, and it still does it. And I know that their rider Miguel Chapious was riding X-overs all of last year, which kind of makes you think these smaller sizes definitely lean towards more of a wave oriented sort of design. But equally, you know, we've had some flat water blasting sessions where I think the initial few runs were definitely a little bit interesting, because you know, you're so used to a monofilm sail that actually when you pump it, it's a very direct and more of a harsher sort of power source. But blasting on that, it's like almost a different pumping technique, like a more scoop in the power. And once you go, it really sort of smoothens out a lot of the chop. It's great fun. You can throw it around, you know, you want to do some duck jibes and whatnot. It just felt like a very manageable sail. Yeah,
like I said, I think that's because of its power, and it's been so kind of predictable that you kind of feel that you can have that on off. You know, you got the power, or then you can kind of ease out. It goes neutral, but it's always kind of stable, and you can move it around. So positives
are super lightweight in the hands. Very easy to manipulate. And actually it does definitely cover quite a wide range of conditions.
Good natural.
Which ultimately, when you call it the X-over, you would hope that it does that, and for sure it does that.
Negatives?
One thing that really,
I suppose,
price
is going to have to be a consideration.
Up there a little bit, but it's not too far off of sort of the top end line of other sails that we're seeing come through now, which is quite nice. One thing that kind of bugged me a little bit when rigging up on the beach is there's no handle down here. So I think naturally you're always thinking, I just grab it and pull, when it wasn't there. But you know, you slowly get used to it. Everything's been simplified, which is good. Rigging up is super easy, especially with the north boom and extension. I mean, the window's got plenty enough visibility for it, which is good.
I suppose the only thing would be, and again, just thinking out loud, is that, again, we're not doing a longevity test. We don't have it for a number of years. You know, is the material going to stand up to that year's, you know, just complete abuse that you get through with wave kit? Yeah. And then also, if you try and starburst through it, which hopefully you won't, but if you do, like, how easy is it to repair the material? But so, I suppose, you know, that again, that's the same with most.
So from what I've heard with it is, if you were to puncture it, so say you had a screwdriver and, you know, chucked it in through a main panel, being able to rip it is almost next to impossible.
Okay.
So then for repairing it, it's very much like they provide patches that go over the top, almost like a laminate, and it's super simple, super easy, and straightforward from there. So that would definitely be an interesting one. Is the longevity test.
Are they going to give us a longevity test to abuse?
Bomb-proofing it? I don't know. It could be a little bit expensive, but you know, overall we've had quite a few sessions on it. Did play around with the batten tensions a little bit. Kind of left the top 3 ones. They weren't massively. These two definitely put a lot of shape in the bottom one. It just created a little bit more stability when we're out there. But equally, you know, once you've done it, you don't feel the sails necessarily stretching as you would find in a monofilm sail, which was, you kind of have 1 or 2 sessions, and sometimes you feel like, you know, I need to put on another
a little bit more
centimetre downhaul or outhaul. But this one seems pretty solid. It's really, really good work from those guys.
Yep, great.
I'd say. Cool. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up on our thoughts of the North X-Over. It'd be really interesting to hear if you guys have tried one yourself. You know, you've had it for a year or whatever. Like, what are your findings? What did you like? What didn't you like? Don't forget to like the video, which really helps us. Subscribe, as I say, leave some comments, and we'll see you in the next one.